Next team in Athlon's magazine, Missouri. There's a lot to like about Missouri. They're a weird program because 2 years ago they overachieved, and then everyone got on the bandwagon. And then
I will admit I was wrong about that. But,
last year underachieved. Now everyone's Drinkowitz. I don't know about him, even though he's recruiting at a record pace. And there's a lot to like about Missouri. I love the receivers. They're young, but they're extremely talented. If they hit on a quarterback, I think I got confidence in Drink to produce running backs. He's done it 3 years in a row. Just gets these guys that have little to no fanfare and turns them into outstanding running backs. So I got confidence in that group. But I don't know, where would you go with Missouri right now, in particular with this quarterback competition? Who do you think will be the guy there in Missouri?
I like Brady Cook. I thought he played pretty well in the bowl game against Army. Of course, how much do you read into bowl performances? It may say something about how Missouri feels about its quarterback room when they were pursuing JT Daniels and others this offseason. Right. So I think there's certainly a level of concern or maybe uncertainty about the quarterbacks. But I love the receivers, too. I mean, Luther Burden, I think, is going to have a huge year. Toski Dove, too, end up on our All-SEC team. The offensive line should be really good, too. 4 starters are back from Missouri. But I think in the big picture, to me, this team comes down to 2 things this year. It's the quarterback situation and the defense. How far does both of those need to progress? And I think in the larger sense, I know they probably underachieved relative to expectations last year. I think Drinkowitz has got, I think he's a good coach. I think they just need better players. I think that's the point. Yeah. They just need more Luther Burdens. They need more guys like that to be able to go to that next level in the East. It doesn't help that Tennessee's getting better. Kentucky's, at one of the peaks of its program, and of course Florida hiring Billy Napier. So I think Drinkowitz is going to be fine there, especially if he keeps recruiting top 15 classes.
Now, they've got an interesting non-conference schedule, too. Louisiana Tech, right out the gate. That's not one where, you overlook Louisiana Tech, they'll bite you in the ass. And then week 2, this is a game I really wanted to ask you about, at Kansas State, September 10th. So, how do they match up against the Wildcats?
Old Big 12 rivals getting back together.
Right.
Yeah. Kansas State is a sleeper in the Big 12 this year. If you look at the Big 12, Baylor, Oklahoma, Oklahoma State probably going to get most of the preseason favorite. Kansas State is very sneaky. They have Adrian Martinez, who's a transfer from Nebraska.
Oh, yeah.
Been kind of he's been a good runner, a little bit inconsistent with turnovers and passing at times, but Deuce Vaughn is the player to watch.
Right.
Kansas State, they've kind of a smaller running back, but all-purpose. They are very good along the line of scrimmage. Should be solid on defense this year. That is a game I think Kansas State will be favored in this offseason.
Yeah. Now that you mentioned Deuce Vaughn, I remember. LSU was playing with an arm tied behind their back, but they did whip LSU for what that's worth. So, yeah, that's an interesting game. I think I had a Mizzou question here for you. Yeah, this is interesting. So I know the defense. They were god awful to start the year, and then basically in the middle of the year. But at the end of the year, they kind of started to put it together. And according to Athlon, I love the depth charts and everything are out there. We got 11 seniors in the 2 deep on defense. Now, that can be a great thing or that can be a bad thing,
right.
Depending on how good those players are. But, does that give you any confidence that maybe, with so many seniors on the 2 deep, that maybe this defense, I don't know, maybe the light clicked on at the tail when they fired their defensive line coach. Now, of course, they got Blake Baker, who I don't have a ton of respect for, but
the second year of his tenure at Miami did not go well, and some of it probably wasn't his fault. He is a younger coach who probably has learned a lot over the last couple of years because he was coordinator at Louisiana Tech and Miami. I think, to play devil's advocate for a second here, Missouri played South Carolina and Florida down the stretch. And so I think you wonder how much of that was bad offenses, struggling teams. Florida at that point of the season was kind of falling apart. How much of that improvement was to be believed or, was just that the opponents were the maybe.
But they also played Georgia. And they played them really tough.
Yeah.
They were just completely overmatched. And Arkansas, which led the SEC in rushing, they didn't completely stop them.
And Army, too, in the bowl game, which is always a difficult
These
matchup.
are damn teams that love to run the ball. And they did a little bit better there. So I believe they were dead last in rushing. And then the last month they were 4th in the SEC, if I'm remembering my stats correctly. So I don't know. If I'm a Mizzou fan, I think there's some optimism that maybe something has clicked there on the defense, which would be huge for them.
Yeah, and you mentioned the experience. It's not only just experience, it's guys in the transfer portal. I think it's even if they aren't impact players, you need depth, especially in the SEC when you're going up against some of these teams. You know, Kentucky's going to have Rodriguez and some of the other backs that are in here to be able to stop the run. So I think the depth is better in this side of the ball. I think just a new approach is probably going to work, because clearly what they were doing the first 6, 7, 8 games wasn't working. So if I was a Missouri fan, I'd be optimistic for improvement. I mean, you have that many guys coming back, that many seniors, plus the transfers. There should be some improvement here. Maybe not to first, second, or third in the SEC, but if you're talking about the margins where this team is probably going to be, improvement there, better quarterback play probably gets them to 6 wins, and that non-conference game at Kansas State is going to be really tricky to navigate, and you still have to go to host Arkansas and crossover play as well.
All right, next in the Athlon magazine we got South Carolina. Bingo, yeah. So